For a while now, one of the most heated debates in the FNAF fandom has been just how much of the various book series apply to the timeline of the games, and recently that debate got especially heated thanks to a Reddit post containing emails from someone pretending to be the creator of the franchise, Scott Cawthon, confirming certain theories about the books. Scott personally stepped in to clarify that it wasn't him in the emails, but the rest of Scott's statement on the matter whipped those on both sides of the book debate into a bit of a frenzy. So with that in mind, I think it's important to try to clear up the situation, especially since depending on what Scott meant, this could have major ramifications for the state of the game's timeline. So sit back and consider subscribing, because I'm going to explain just what seems to be going on with Scott's statement and the canonicity of the Five Nights at Freddy's books. Before I get into what Scott specifically said, I should probably give a bit of background for those who aren't knee-deep in the happenings of the FNAF theorizing community. When it comes to the books, there are a few different perspectives on how they should be applied to the games, in large part due to previous posts that Scott's made. When the first book in the original FNAF novel trilogy came out, a lot of people were confused by how so much of the book seemed to contradict what happened in the games, so Scott made a Steam post explaining that while the book was canon to Five Nights at Freddy's as a franchise, it was in a different continuity or timeline of events. He also said in that post that the novel trilogy wasn't meant to be used to solve the games. However, this was at the time that Scott hadn't planned to continue the games past FNAF 4, and when the games did continue, they did make use of a lot of elements of the novel trilogy, such as characters like Elizabeth Afton, Henry Emily, and the Funtime animatronics. But there was still a distinctly separate set of events, making it clear that while there was overlap, the two continuities were far from identical. However, while there is debate over how much of the novel trilogy overlaps with the games, there isn't really much debate over whether or not they're actually part of the game timeline. The real controversy is in regards to the Fazbear Frights and Tales from the Pizzaplex series. With Fazbear Frights, Scott mentioned that it would have some stories connected to the games as well as some that weren't, and that it would fill in some of the blanks to the past of the franchise. Now, some people interpreted this as some stories being in the same continuity as the games, with others not. This theory is typically referred to as Stitchline games, in reference to a character in the books called the Stitch Wraith. Supporters of this theory believe that all the stories that are in the game continuity are the ones containing and linked to the story of the Stitch Wraith. Those stories would be the ones filling in the blanks to the past, as Scott described. On the other hand, some believe that while the series is canon to FNAF, it would be in its own continuity. Some things may carry over, just like they did from the novel trilogy, when Scott did eventually continue the games, but the specific events might not be one-to-one. For those who believe this theory, when Scott said some stories were connected to the games, it would be more in the sense that there are stories set in the locations in the games, such as the story What We Found being set in the FNAF 3 location and having different events, or sharing characters, like William Afton. Because of this, the way the series would fill in the blanks to the past would be through parallels in character situations, or explaining how important aspects of the world, such as possession and remnant, work. Another idea, Frights Games, is that the entire Fazbear Fright series is game continuity, but only some stories are directly relevant to the games. So story disconnected from the events of the game, such as Gumdrop Angel, would still be part of the game timeline, even if it wasn't necessary for filling in any blanks. The Tales from the Pizzaplex books have a similar split, but as Scott hasn't specifically said that some stories are connected to the games while others aren't like he did with Frights, the divide largely seems to be between those who think that Tales from the Pizzaplex is 100% game continuity, or Tales games, and those who don't believe Tales games, instead thinking that it's a situation of many overlapping elements and parallels. Now, I do have my own thoughts on which of these theories I think are correct, but this video isn't really intended to prove which one is right, outside of in regards to Scott's statement on the email. And I have already gone over how I personally applied the books to the games in one of my previous videos. Not to mention, the debates over which book theories are true can be pretty exhausting. Speaking of being exhausted, have you ever been hoping to sleep in only for the rising sun to wake you up well before you were ready? If so, then this video's sponsor, Manta Sleep, is here to help. Manta Sleep offers a variety of high-quality sleep masks with an adjustable fit and different perks to choose from, such as built-in Bluetooth audio and 100% blocking out of light. Not to mention, with the premium feel of the materials, you don't have to worry about being woken up by discomfort from it in the middle of the night. I personally haven't gone a night without my Manta Pro sleep mask since I got it. The C-shaped eye cups work great for me as a side sleeper who doesn't want the pressure from the O-shaped cups, and as someone who gets up significantly later than my roommates, there have been times where my roommates have had to turn on the lights to get dressed, leaving me unfortunately awake while I was still a few hours short of a full night's sleep. However, since I've started using the Manta Pro sleep mask, I haven't had to worry about the light in my eyes until I take the mask off myself. So if you want to upgrade your sleeping experience, make sure to check out the link at the top of the description or in the pinned comment and use code idsfantasy to get 10% off on your order from Manta Sleep. But back to the topic at hand, the debates over theories about the book's connections to the game continuity can get really heated, and for a while, people have been wanting Scott to make a statement confirming just how much of the books did carry over to the game continuity to try and settle the debate once and for all. This is where we come to the email situation. When the fake emails were posted to Reddit, it threw people into an uproar for a few reasons. For one, the Scott in the emails supposedly confirmed both Tales games and Stitchline to be true, which would have some major implications for the games, particularly in the case of Stitchline, partially for reasons that I go over in my previous video. But another reason the community had such a strong reaction was because of just how strange the situation was. Generally, when Scott wants to make a statement on something, he'll do it publicly, and usually keep things pretty vague when it comes to any specific theories or lore details. So for him to be so specific about the lore in an email to some seemingly random individual was very out of the ordinary, and a lot of people were suspicious. Fortunately, Scott did confirm relatively quickly that the emails were, in fact, not from him. However, the post in its entirety reads, "I'm not sure if the email itself was faked or if someone posing as me sent it, but anyone who knows me after all these years should know that this isn't how I would address such a serious topic. So let me take this opportunity to be as clear as possible. Concerning what people are saying about the canonicity of the books, yes, that is correct. I hope this clears things up. Everyone have a great weekend." As you can probably tell from me making this video and the comment section on this post, this did not clear things up. Many people interpreted him making the statement in response to the email situation to mean that what people were saying in the emails was correct, while others said that his statement was too vague, and that Scott was likely joking about actually clearing things up. So what did Scott likely mean with this? While I can't claim to know for a fact exactly what Scott intended to get across with this post, based on the way he's responded to situations both before this and after, I think we can get a pretty good idea of what message Scott wanted to get across with how we should use the books, and why it's so important for the community to be aware of. To start, while Scott did say he would be as clear as possible, I do think this is definitely a situation where his statement can be interpreted in a variety of ways. While he did make the full comment in response to the fake emails, the only part of his statement where he addresses the emails in particular is the first sentence, where he doesn't even acknowledge the contents, just the fact that he wouldn't address a lore topic by responding to a question about it in an email to someone. After that, he then says he'll be as clear as possible before saying that what unspecified people were saying about the book's canonicity was correct. We know that he can be straightforward, since not too long after this post, Scott made another one on the topic of the character Doug in the FNAF movie novelization doing something very out of character compared to his movie counterpart. And he led off the post with, "Hey everyone, some issues are much easier to address than others, and this is an easy one." And ended it with, "Just to clear this up, movie Doug is canon, book Doug is not canon." With this post, not only is Scott very specific and direct, but the fact that he says this is an issue that is easier to address makes the previous post about the books stand out even more. He could have easily said that the statements in the email were either correct or incorrect, but he made it vague and generalized with what claims he was referring to. Not to mention, he only ever mentioned the canonicity of the books, and we know from previous statements of his that even if a book is canon, that doesn't speak to its continuity. So why would Scott say that he's going to be clear if he wasn't actually intending to be clear in the first place? Well, for one thing, this wouldn't be the first time he's pulled something like this. Back when people were actively debating whether or not the animatronic Mangle was a boy or a girl, Scott said that he would answer the question so that the community could put the situation behind them, and then answered the question of if Mangle was a boy or a girl with yes. Comparing that to Scott saying he'll be completely clear and then very much not doing that seems like a pretty similar situation, even down to the answer of yes. I think if Scott really wanted to confirm whether or not certain books or stories were part of the game continuity, he would have said it directly. You're free to disagree with me, but since he didn't, and because in the post about Doug he implied that this situation with the books and the emails was harder to address, I think it's likely that Scott not only wasn't confirming anything about the books that we didn't already know, since technically all the book series are canon, even if not game continuity, but I also think that this is, in a way, Scott's way of saying that he doesn't currently plan on giving a direct answer about how the books can apply to the games. And honestly, I think that's fine. By leaving things open-ended, it allows room for creative theories and headcanons. It allows each theorist to see the story a bit differently, so everyone is able to offer a different perspective and contribute something unique, whether that be through a traditional theory or through another medium like fanart. While it can be frustrating to not have clear answers on some things like this, I think the most important thing with FNAF theorizing is to find the answers you personally find the most satisfying with the information we're given. Sometimes that may require changing theories or considering perspectives that contradict our own, but at the end of the day, the whole point of being a fan is to have fun with the material. That's why we're all here after all. So whether you believe Stitchline games, Frights games, Tales games, or games, I think the most important thing to keep in mind is that we're all here to enjoy Five Nights at Freddy's. And hey, with the announcement of the Into the Pit game based on the first Fazbear Frights story, there will be plenty more discussions to be had about what these books mean, so we might as well make it a pleasant experience. But with all that said, if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so that YouTube will let you know when I make another video. Also, don't forget to check out the deal for Manta Sleep if you're at all interested. Don't get stabbed, and have a nice day.